Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the pork queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. From the Brady Dental Care Studio, I'm Justin Brady. It's fall. We're still obsessing with fall. Well, we're gonna talk a little bit about the scenic drives you can see here in Iowa, and maybe a particularly good location you can do that, which is southern Iowa at the Villages of Van Buren. And I have Emily Starnes in the studio, the executive director of the Villages of Van Buren. Thanks for coming in the studio. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is a mouthful.
And it's confusing at first for me because I was like, the Villages of Van Buren is not a town. It is not actually a county. It's not. We're going to talk about what is it, why does it matter, and why should people probably be visiting in the fall, but maybe year-round.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about that today. But you know what I'm going to say, everybody. You should probably subscribe if you haven't already. Every week we bring you great Iowans with great information. It's really easy to find. You can find it on X now, formerly known as Twitter. You can find it on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, even Amazon. It's everywhere. So make sure to subscribe. So Emily, I appreciate you coming in the studio. Let's get right into it. What is there a definition for what the villages are? The Villages of Van Buren. It's not a town. It's not a city. What is it exactly? And then there's a ton of stuff we're going to go into because you have a festival coming up. We'll get into that too. But let's start broadly. What's a definition? What is this place? What is this mystical place?
Sure. Well, the Van Buren County is actually a county, but we call it the Villages of Van Buren because we have 11 small towns, and we consider each one of those a village. And so that makes up the Villages of Van Buren County. We're very small. We're rural. Our county seat has less than 1,000 people in it. So that tells you all the other communities are much smaller. And so that's what we like to call it, the villages. And it's a way to get people to come see us all as a community countywide.
Now, you are the because you don't necessarily see an executive director of a county or... So it is essentially these 11 different cities are held together by your entity, which is the Villages of Van Buren. Yeah,
I'm technically in charge of tourism and economic development, and so this is a way. I don't actually know when they started publicizing as the Villages, but it is a great way to get people to come down and see us and all that we have to offer. Because as a whole, we are a combination of history. Lots of outdoor recreational activities, a lot of artists. I don't think people realize that. We have a huge artist community in the Villages of Van Buren County. We also have actually a lot of activities going on that bring out a variety of younger people. We're known for having a lot of older community members, but we are definitely turning that around and bringing in some younger people that just want something to do, but in a quieter, more peaceful area to live in. So.
I think that's kind of a sign of the times too, because I've had some younger people on this show, and I remember when I was younger, and I mean, I didn't really feel this way, but everyone wanted to go to the big city. They wanted to go to the big city with the bars and all the activity and craziness. That wasn't really my speed. I did end up going to like a bigger city, but just because they had a program I wanted. It's just not my thing. Like bar hanging out downtown, like rock shows. People may think I'm weird, but my idea of a good time is like a couple friends and talking about like the deeper issues of life. But I had some students in. I want to say it was maybe a couple months ago. And I was like, you guys they're Iowa students. They're graduating from high school. What's your future vision? They're thinking on, I want to make a good decision so that I can make a future mortgage payment. And I don't want to go to a town that's too expensive. And I'm like, okay, all right. You guys are just smart individuals, but come on, like everybody doesn't think this way. And they're like, nah, pretty much all our friends think this way too. So I think it's a sign of the times that people are appreciating a more nature setting over a city Maybe. Are you seeing that as being an overall trend, or are you just seeing that you tend to attract those minded people? Maybe you don't know the answer, but I figured
I don't really know the answer to that, but I do think we attract people that think like that. I'm with you. When I was younger, went off to college, I actually lived in Des Moines for 25 years. So, I, started my family here, and then it wasn't until 2019 when I moved back. I grew up in Van Buren County, and I moved back there. I have a lot of family there and ties there. But I also became one of those people as I got older. I was like, I'm ready for a slower pace of life. I just want, to enjoy things instead of rushing home in the traffic. I'm driving along and during the day and I can see a red fox running through the ditch or, I can see an eagle flying over the river, as I'm just driving around.
Right.
So it's just a different pace of life and it's a lot more calming. And I think with the times and everything that's gone on over the last several years, I think we are seeing a lot more of that's happening. So
do you see that almost being and there is a lot of science here too. We're not a science show, obviously. Maybe we'll have a scientist on the future to talk about this, but do you see that the mental health crisis, there's a lot of mental health issues and there's a lot of, and again, you don't have to agree or disagree with this, but there's a lot of neurological and mental health researchers that are like, guys, just spending time in nature is actually an antidote for a lot of these mental health issues. Unplugging from technology and spending time in nature has a lot of positive endorphins and epinephrine effects on the brain. Do you see that as being a boon to people moving into that area, or at least coming there for tourism? Because agritourism is a big thing now.
It is a huge thing now. And I don't know the science behind that either, but I agree 100%. I mean, I know for me personally that when I'm having a stressful day, it's been busy, a lot going on. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is drive out to the state park, which is right across the bridge in Keosauqua, and take a drive and park and hike or sit there. Sometimes I'll go sit down by the lake and just take it all in, and it's quiet and peaceful, and it just kind of brings you to some zen.
How big is that park? You said that's what state park?
That's Lacey Keosauqua State Park.
It's also a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
You guys hopefully have your own pronunciation guide down there and a big.
Well, there's a joke about Keosauqua because there was a T-shirt made years ago that spelled it out phonetically. So Keosauqua.
We do have a Keo Way.
Yes,
so,
yes, and that is Keosauqua Way.
Yeah, and it's fairly close to our studio, maybe about a mile or so, maybe a couple miles probably. But how big is that in over
Sure, that park is over 1,600 acres.
Okay.
And so there's 13 miles of trails in that park. There's a 30-acre lake in there. There's lots of hiking activities that you can do. There's camping, fishing. Just to the south of Lacey Keosauqua State Park is Lake Sujima, which is 550-acre lake that was a man-made lake primarily made for fishing and wildlife preservation efforts and conservation efforts. So there's a lot of outdoor, like I said, between Lacey Keosauqua State Park, Lake Sujima, Shimmick State Forest. We have a state park and a state forest in our small county.
Yeah, is that unusual?
I don't really know, but it's something that I like to talk about, especially for people that love to be outside. So, and we have the Des Moines River that flows through the entire county in a diagonal way. And so there's 41 miles, I believe, of the lower Des Moines River water trail.
Now, how big is the because most of Iowa's population is in cities, Des Moines, Iowa City, Davenport. So I don't think everyone immediately thinks of forest being a part of Iowa.
Right.
So how big is that forest?
The forest is, I know it's in the thousands of acres.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of what it actually is.
I have it. I think
I wrote it down.
Yeah, you sent this to me. Here it is. You sent this to me. 9,000 acres, right?
Yes.
Shimmick State Forest. Yeah, you sent this to me. So, yeah, it's actually pretty substantial.
Yeah, it is listed as the third largest forest in Iowa. So that tells you we do have other forests in Iowa. For people that think that we don't have a lot to offer in Iowa. I mean, I know before I got into tourism, I didn't really know everything there was in Iowa. And I mean, you can go to any corner of the state of Iowa and find something new. So we've got a lot to offer here in the state, and we like to think that we have a lot to offer in Van Buren County.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from the Des Moines Metro.
Sure.
And so I will readily say, I've lived here most of my life. I went to college for a little while, came back. I will readily say central Iowa is pretty flat. Right. It's just there's not as far as topography, there's not a lot going on. That's fine. We still love it here, but there's not a lot going on. You go up to Ames and you have the ledges and stuff. That's cool. But what's interesting to me is if Des Moines and, Iowa City gets kind of close to the eastern part of Iowa, so there's some cool stuff over there. But if Des Moines, if the attraction is like the city and activity and like some of the bigger events, the further you get out from the metro is when you start seeing topography, which is kind of an interesting balance. And so I always tell people when they're like, oh my gosh, Iowa's so flat. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, if you drive through the major interstates, it is. I'm guessing that's probably why they put the interstates there.
Exactly.
Because it's flat and it was easier. But if you get off the beaten path of the national, like the federal interstate system, Iowa's topography is actually pretty striking.
It is. It really is. And in the Villages of Van Buren County, we have the river valleys. So, I mean, if you just ask somebody that comes down and attends our Bike Van Buren event that we have every year, they'll tell you it is not flat in Van Buren County. So they ride their bikes through there. We do that every August, and it's a lot of hills. So when we do that, we have a lot of hospitality stops. We make it family friendly. It's also a way to get people to explore the Villages of Van Buren in a different way. And they will be the first to tell you there's an area between Benton Sport and Keosauqua that I like to call it the roller coaster, because you're going up and down the hills, and it's beautiful as well. I mean, we're very lucky that we have so many trees, so much wildlife. I mean, you can see deer almost every day. We're also known for our hunting in the during hunting season. So we bring in a lot of people from all over the country into the Villages of Van Buren County just to hunt.
Now, you do have a pretty big, I believe, Amish and Mennonite community down there as well. Is this kind of contribute to the overall like handmade artistry kind of movement you have going on down there?
I don't know if that contributes to it, but it definitely brings another aspect to it. I know when I moved my daughter back down to the Villages of Van Buren, she grew up in Des Moines. That's where she was born. And so I was trying to explain to her about the diversity, the difference in diversity in the Des Moines area versus diversity down in Van Buren County. And I took her around and showed her an Amish schoolhouse where the kids are out playing and just how they live and how different it is. So I just think it brings another culture down to that area, and it's interesting, and it's definitely a draw. I mean, a lot of times when we bring people that are touring the area, that's something they want to go is visit Amish Mennonite communities and see about their lives.
Yeah. Is it kind of, I know this comparison probably doesn't do it justice, but is the Villages of Van Buren, at least the tourist, like the areas that tourists visit mostly, right? Is it kind of like scaling up Living History Farms in a very, very big way? Is that a fair way to say it? Like a lot of handmade kind of stuff?
In a way, but we have a lot of artists too. So, we have painters, sculptors, pottery makers, blacksmith artists, rug weavers, throughout our county. So we are filled with a variety of artisans that do a lot of different things. In fact, we have what's called the Village Folk School. And so you can actually take classes and sign up online. There's a website for that you can go and check out all the different classes that you can take. You can learn how to forage on a hike out in the woods, and what you can eat and what you can't eat and things like that. So there's a variety of things that you can learn down there. And so, I just think we're very lucky to have all of this that we can offer in such a rural area. Like I think I told you, our county is just over 7,000 people. So we're very rural.
Yeah. So are there, like, if people visit, then do you have to bring like your own RV, or are there a bunch of bed and breakfasts? Like, what's the situation there?
Well, we do have, obviously you can bring an RV. We have lots of camping. Lacey Keosauqua State Park has that, Shimmick, but also there's a ton of county campgrounds as well. But we have Hotel Manning. And so the Hotel Manning was built in the 1800s. And it's right along the Des Moines River in Keosauqua. And
it does have running water and electricity.
It has
right?
running water. It was actually recently renovated. So the old part of the hotel actually has their own bathrooms. Before that,
they have their own bathrooms
in their rooms. It wasn't set up that way.
Amazing. Everybody go visit.
It was definitely like a bed and breakfast style where you still had to walk down the hall.
Yeah.
But they did a lot of refurbishing the hotel. It's actually the only community-owned hotel in the state of Iowa.
Really?
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means that it had been kind of going downhill for several years, needed a lot of work done. Some different developers came in, were going to maybe buy it. They'd step out. Somebody else would come in, look at it. They'd step out. And so there's a group of community members that went together and decided that the hotel manning means something to Van Buren County. It is a staple. It's something a lot of people recognize. And so there were, I think initially just under 80 people, but I think the number ended up being over 80 people went together.
Really?
And each contributed $5,000.
Wow.
And they created an organization and bought the hotel. And so that's who runs the hotel today.
So this was this like a public-private partnership or just straight up private people all donating to make the organization?
Yep, they're considered investors, but the joke is that they are, they'll probably, they're not even worried about if they ever see a dime out. They just wanted to see this landmark, stay around and not have it fall apart like a lot of our older buildings tend to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the hotel manning.
Yes.
Okay, for anybody listening, we have a lot of people driving across Iowa that listen to this show. So if you're listening, please don't get your pen and paper out and start writing this stuff down. As a reminder, we'll put all that at iowapodcast.com. Don't worry about it. So hotel manning, that's really interesting. Okay, so I got to ask, because there was something you put in the email. I do have to ask. It sounds kind of old-timey. It's a throwback. It's quiet, slower life, which I mean, to me, many days, more days than most. Sounds great. I'm definitely going to go visit. But do you have any stoplights? Like, how many fast food restaurants and stoplights do you have then?
Zero.
That kind of sounds nice, honestly.
It really is. Again, it just gives the feel. And at one point, they were looking at putting a stoplight in. I think it was just for, it was before I moved back, but I think it was just for maybe some, like the car wash or something. It was just part of their advertising. Mm-hmm. And it became a big deal. Like, no, we are known for being these small communities. Funny. And yeah, it definitely is up for discussion whenever somebody wants to come in and do something that takes away from that.
I remember when like Carlisle got like its first stoplight and I think it made the Des Moines Register.
It probably did. I mean, I think this would make it if we ever, if something changed like that. But for the Villages of Van Buren, it would take away from the aesthetic down there. I mean, it really is like a place you can go to, slow down, everybody waves at you. I mean, I've driven down there when I was younger with friends, out of college, and people would wave and my friends would be like, "Who's that? Who's that?" And I'd be like, "I don't know."
And it's like, this is not the time and place for my rant on stoplights, but I think they are like the bane of my existence. People are probably like, stoplights, we need stop. I think the whole idea of how a stoplight manages an intersection is idiotic. They try, like, you pull up to a stoplight at 2 a.m. or midnight, it's red, you're in a rural Iowa country road somewhere, a smaller town, and you can clearly see for like a mile no one's coming. Everybody, you have to agree with me. You feel like a moron sitting there, like this junky piece of technology developed in like the 70s, maybe even the 60s. I don't know when they were developed. Is like literally telling me, no, it's not safe to cross. You feel like a child.
Right.
It's so dumb. So congratulations on banning stoplights. You should just make a law. Just kidding. Okay. Well, moving on so people don't think this show's really, really weird. You also have a courthouse. It has some historical significance, right?
It really does. It is the oldest courthouse in continuous use in the state of Iowa. And it's listed as the second oldest in the United States. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It also, it was built in 1843. And then in 1846, it talks about there's a lot of different write-ups about this, but there was the first legal hanging in Iowa, so it got the name Hangman's Hollow, which is just right there next to the courthouse, and so which actually came from
something to really hang your reputation on. Right?
Yeah. And so I remember actually as a kid though that my grandparents lived near Hangman's Hollow, and it was always a thing, especially this time of year to be like, I dare you to go, down there, and we'd all scare each other. So there's that aspect, but
we had Ian Miller on here a couple weeks ago or last week or something with the slaughterhouse in Des Moines. It's the haunted house. Or, I wonder if he knows about this.
I don't know.
Don't tell him. Otherwise, he will come down there and do something creepy.
That might be kind of fun, though.
Yeah.
From a tourism perspective, I might welcome that.
Yeah.
We also have, with it being this time of year, the Mason House Inn is also, that's in Bentonsport. It's a little inn, B&B, and it is known for having ghosts. That's the talk about it there. And it's always
listed.
Is
this a hotel?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
And so it's in Bentonsport, which is just a...
And this is what?
It's called the Mason House Inn.
Mason House Inn. Okay, I'm writing that down too.
Sure. They often have some people come in and do paranormal activities.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
And so...
Do they see reservations go up during Halloween time then?
I don't know. I'll have to
funny.
ask them. But I know that they do have one coming up in November where they're having a guy come in and doing some paranormal activity in there. And so it's very interesting. I actually had a class that came down from outside of Iowa City that was doing a class on paranormal activity.
Really?
Yes. And so they were looking for a place to go, and so to do a field trip. So they came down to the Mason House, and I attended that as well, so I could hear all about what they were talking about. And so it was really interesting.
What kind of class is this?
I don't know. I think there's certain classes that they're allowed to do as alternates.
So weird.
Yes.
That's so weird. Okay, so you said it was the oldest courthouse in continuous use. What does that mean? Like it's never been shut down, or
nope, it's never been shut down.
What?
It's they still utilize it. They have a newer building next to it that they do a lot of the court cases, but it is still there and can be utilized. And so a lot of courthouses, when you look at the history of them that are old, that are built in the 1800s, or if you go out east, they're even earlier in the 1700s, but a lot of them have either shut down if they're still standing, or they're museums now. And so yeah, it's a really beautiful brick structure as well.
Yeah. So now you're the Villages of Van Buren County. That does border Missouri, right?
Yes.
It's very close.
Yes.
So I got to ask, are there any you essentially protect us from Missouri, kind of, right? Like in any hostile activity or craziness down in Missouri, you kind of keep them out for us, right?
Sure.
Are there any funny? My full disclosure, I have friends that live in Missouri, but are there any interesting border stories?
Yes,
or
and actually I sent this to you.
You are the first line of defense.
Yes, I sent
Missouri.
This to you because back in the 1800s, there was a border dispute when they were the territories of Missouri and Iowa. Mm-hmm. And so, it was called the Honey War because it all came down to that there were some honey trees along there. It went into, there was some tax collecting that Missouri was wanting to do with residents that were north of that border. And there were a lot of disagreements going on. And so the story is, I've read a few different interpretations of this. And so it goes down to that there were some honey trees that a tax collector chopped down, started a dispute. And so it turned out that Iowa ended up getting part of that. And,
Good.
And there was no actual fires, shot. There were militias that were formed between.
Really? Are you serious? So this was a legit small scale war.
Yes, there were militias that were formed for Iowa and Missouri, but it ended up that it all kind of calmed back down before anything actually happened. So there were no fires shot, and everything is all calm, and the border existed as it was. So
and they've never recovered to this day. If you drive through Missouri, there are still stalled cars all over the road and potholes. And when you get over the border, that's when the road gets a little iffy. You know what I mean? So they really haven't recovered to this day. So, that's too bad. We got your honey trees, or we got the property,
right.
whatever. You shouldn't have screwed with us, Missouri. Stay out. Just kidding. You guys you're welcome. Just make sure to pay the tourism sales tax. But no, that's actually really, really interesting. Honey trees. Fascinating. So what you actually brought something with you today in a little box, and we will definitely be posting photos of this as well. So what's the story behind this thing? It almost looks like a little orb, a glass orb of some kind.
Yeah, it's about the size of an orange. Mm-hmm. It is an orb, exactly what you called it. We call it the Villages Orb Project, and this was the idea of our local glassblowing artist that we have in Van Buren County, and he created this interactive art installation where he creates these glass orbs. They have a flat surface on the bottom mm-hmm. where he stamps them. It says Villages Orb Project.
Oh, wow.
And so he also signs each one with the year, and then the ones that he puts out will each be numbered. And so these are hidden along the trails in Van Buren County. And so when you come down to the villages, go out and all these trails that we have throughout the villages of Van Buren, you can go explore them. County trails, the state park trails. There's also Indian Lake Park, which is just outside of Farmington, and that's a city-owned park. All of those parks have these orbs hidden along the trails. And if you find one, then you can keep it. All we ask that you do is that you go to our website and register it. And that way we know that it's been found, who found it. Yeah. You give like a brief information about your name. We don't post first names on our website, but we do like to figure out where people came from when they're out there exploring and find these, and also help us keep track how many have been found.
Now, how many are there? You may have said that. I may have missed it.
No, I haven't said it. This year there's 103 that are out along the trails. Okay. And so last year was the first year that we did this. Kind of the joke was that, this has been the brainchild of Tim Blair, who is the glassblowing artist for years, and just a little bit of procrastination, and then we had the pandemic, and so after things have calmed down, it was like, okay, we really want to do this. And so last year in 2022, that's the first year that that we did this, and there were 52 orbs.
52. You put out 52.
52 last year in 2022.
And what's the qualification of trail? Does it have to be a state park or what?
So there's the state park, so Lacey-Keosauqua State Park trails, and there are, again, 13 miles of trails. There's the County Conservation Park trails. There's 3 out of the 4 of those. There would be orbs out there. So Benton Sports Trail, Lindsay Wilderness Trail, which is just north of Bonaparte, and Morris Park, which is in Stockport, or just outside of Stockport. And then again, like I said, Indian Lake Park also, which is outside of Farmington.
And you said last year there were 52?
52 last year.
And how many have been registered then from last year?
Last year, 46 of the 52.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
I'm actually shocked that people, first of all, it's a surprise if people find it. That's fun. But I'm shocked that many people actually registered them. Well, you may have had 100% discovery.
Yeah, it was actually, it was a goal for people. People would come visit, and of course, locals too. It was like a competition. I'm going to find one of these. Right. I want to find one of these. And people would just be out there on the trails, looking daily almost.
Now, is there a website actually stamped on the orb, or is there any if someone not from here didn't hear this show, didn't go to your website, just was backpacking through Iowa or something, and they found it, would they know to go register it?
They wouldn't necessarily know that because it just says Villages Orb Project.
So they may Google it.
But being in the community, if they Google it, they're going to see there's a Facebook page specifically for the Villages Orb Project. You go to our villagesofvanburen.com website to register it. And in our communities, if they said, hey, I found this, what am I supposed to do? What do I get to keep it? What is this? Yeah. Somebody's going to tell them what's going on and what it's about. So, that's the other nice thing about being in small communities, that you can just ask a question and you'll get an answer.
That's a good, small communities combined with the power of the internet. These days, you almost can't hide anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you find an orb, everybody, and you're in southern Iowa, it may be part of the project. That's really, really cool. So 52 hid last year, 103 this year.
Yes.
Now, are they already hidden?
They're already hidden.
So it's already on.
Yeah, it's
already going. When did it start? When did the official?
So June 1st each year is when it kicks off. So each June there'll be
What's the how many discovered so far then?
64 this year.
Oh, 64. So 64 out of 103.
Yes.
Now, what's the point of this whole thing? What was the brainchild? Like, why do this? Just for fun?
Well,
like,
why? Dr. Blair, I also always point out that our glassblowing artist is a retired doctor. And so he grew up in Van Buren County. And so he grew up on those trails just like I did when I was a kid. And so when you grew up there, you just really have a love for that area. And so he just wanted to get people outside and using his own artistry to get people to do that. So last year, they actually donated. So all 52 orbs that he made last year, he and his wife donated that. And then the Villages of Van Buren promoted it and talked about it and every chance we could get. And then so this year, I did apply for some grant funding so that we could increase it.
That's cool.
And then we're again marketing it and made sure that he got reimbursed for it for his expenses this year, and we want to see this continue to grow. So
now, do you log where you hide them all? That way, like, you can go back and check and see if they've been discovered?
He does have a GPS. I don't know, and I prefer it that way.
He does the geocaching thing. He actually marks them on a map so he knows where they are.
Yeah, he does something. I don't know if it's specifically geocaching, because I asked him about that, because we do have another geocaching.
I mean, this is glass, so these aren't tracked. There's nothing, I can see right through it. There's nothing tracked there.
Which is why...
Unless he's developed some very The U.S. government wants to talk to him, by the way, if he's figured this out. So that is absolutely fascinating. I will make sure to get a photo of that on iowapodcast.com before you leave. But really quick before you go, can we briefly touch on the Scenic Drive Festival, when that is and what that is? We have like 30 seconds left.
Sure. Well, the Scenic Drive Festival is this weekend.
You don't have to rush, though.
Okay. It's this weekend, so it starts Friday, October 13th through the 15th. The majority of events are on Saturday, but we have some of the villages that have things starting on Friday. Bonaparte's one of those. You can stop at the Bonaparte Retreat, which is a local restaurant and an old grist mill. There's stuff going on at the fairgrounds, so there's vendors out there. And then Saturday, it kicks off with a parade in Keosauqua. It's the largest parade that we have in Van Buren County, and that they line up for that at 10, or they don't line up at 10. It starts at 10 a.m. and it goes down through the main area. And then there's vendors and activities going on. There's even a band along the riverfront, or 3 bands on Saturday night. If you want to go to the Amish and Mennonite communities, you definitely want to hit those on Friday or Saturday, because they do not open on Sunday.
Oh, sure.
And so I always say, get a brochure or go to our website and get the information about what's going on and where, and make a plan, because we have so much going on in all the villages for this weekend. It really is a collaborative event that brings our communities together to make this happen.
Emily Starnes, Executive Director of the Villages of Van Buren. Thank you so much for coming on the Iowa Podcast. What is the website that you can leave with everybody so they can find you?
It's villagesofvanburen.com.
Emily, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa Podcast.